So good evening, everyone, and welcome, warm welcome to the workshop From Desire to Aspiration. Before we start, we'll have a moment's silence, please. So welcome to you all. And this is an important workshop looking at desire and transforming it into aspiration. Desire is currently acknowledged or presently acknowledged to be a major source of misery and suffering in our lives. Desire has many faces. It ranges from vital craving and ambition, to physical greed, to sexual hunger, to intellectual aggrandizement, to aesthetic fulfillment. There are many, many facets to it. But really, there is only one desire, and that has one cause. Now, the subject of this particular workshop is how we actually transform desire into its counterpart, psychic counterpart, aspiration. And for the first session today, we have Dr. Monica Gelati, a relentless explorer. She describes herself, and it's quite true. She is a relentless explorer and also a very insightful and illuminating guide, evidenced from the amount of sessions she's holding, which are giving inspiration to all that experience them. Our session today is Burning in Desires, a Step to Intense Aspiration. So I'm really looking forward to this session, and over to you, Monica.
Thank you so much, James. Thank you for the organization of this workshop, and thank you everyone for joining today. So let's start from inviting reflections today on desires. Now, the very fact that desires are there, part of manifestation, there must be a purpose to their being there. They're not here for no purpose, right? So I would like to invite reflections, and all of us have been through desires. It's impossible that none of us has never desired. So we have a practical experience. In fact, not one, many, many practical experiences. So would you like to share about first, before the other questions, about what may be the purpose, according to your present understanding, of desires? What is the place of desire in your life? Why is it there, the good part of desire? We'll talk about the bad part later, but what is good about desires? Why are they present in manifestation at all? So would anyone like to share their shortly their reflections? And please keep your reflections very crisp, as we have not much time, so that others also get a chance to share shortly theirs. So yeah, anyone?
I think it's the ego. The ego puts its stamp on desire, which is something that's innately quite pure, actually. But the ego puts its stamp on desire and perverts it and takes it away from aspiration.
Yeah, yes. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is due to the involution, because, for example, an infant needs to have milk, desire for warmth, food, attention, care, to make, they don't have the ego also. Up till 12, 14 months, they don't have anything. So this is the reverse direction which, life force has taken.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
Monica,
Yeah.
ego pushes us to do things, and by doing things, we become.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Anyone else wants to add on to these reflections? What is the purpose of desire? The good purpose of desire in my life? What would happen if there were no desires, for example? Yes, Parvinder ji, please.
Yeah, I think desires sort of help me channelize my energy, and sort of they show me the way forward, if I can put it that way.
Yeah, great. Yes, Megha? You want to unmute and share? Yes.
It energizes, or rather fuels our actions in order to achieve what we want. So I think that would be the positive side of a desire.
Yeah. Great. Anyone else wants to add on? What is the positive aspect of desire in your life? Okay. So I think we have really beautiful. Yes, Beena ji, you want to share, please?
Yeah. No, I mean, it just keeps us going sometimes, it is, it is like aspiration in some way, whatever, it motivates us to move forward.
Beautiful. Yeah. So great. I think a good point to end here, the reflection that it makes us move. It makes us move. We are all born in this, in this manifestation full of inertia of inconscience. It's very dull, heavy, the material consciousness, physical consciousness is very, very dull and heavy. And many a times we settle down in our comfort zones. All of us have that experience. We settle down so easily, sab theek to hai, kyun change karna hai? All is well, why do I have to change, right? So desire, the positive aspect of desire is that it makes us move. It makes us move from that dullness and of the inconscious, the dullness of the inertia that we have, having the material form. So thank you all of you for reflecting over it, because the desire does have a purpose. Desire does have a purpose. It's like just like a knife. A knife is a beautiful tool for cutting vegetables, but a knife can also murder people. So the knife per se is not bad, but the clinging to the knife for bad reasons may be bad. So let us not malign desires very much, because they have a purpose. Aurobindo mother, they themselves, they have shared that desire is the helper and then desire is the bar. So desire is the helper in a way that it makes me move from my settled comfort zones, and from time to time I become very, very settled in my self images. Okay, this is who I am, and what's the need to change further? So then I become desirous of something. I see something beautiful outside, I something very, very attractive outside, and it offers me completion. It offers me more beauty. So I'm pulled towards it. So that desire makes me move from my settled comfort zones. Although later on I may still fall into misery, because desires do end up in misery. We'll talk about that later. But initially the purpose was served, that it made me move. So that's the purpose. That otherwise, if I am just settled on my bed and very happy, very content on the bed, the desire for tea or a cup of coffee or something, it makes me move. So I move my ass, I do some exercise, right? So the desire to have a good body makes me move, go to the gym, or make nature walks or whatever. So desires do have a purpose. But there is also another aspect to desire, which is the suffering part. Desires also have the capacity to make us suffer. Excessive clinging to desires makes us suffer. And Mother and Aurobindo say that this journey of human evolution is from the desire soul, the clingy personality that we have. It's everything. We stick to everything. We stick to everything. We stick to people in my life. We stick to situations in my life. We stick to jobs. We stick to financial security. So this sticking, this is what needs to become non-sticky, which is the movement towards true soul or the psychic individuality, who we truly are. So desires do a work in kind of moving myself, desettling me from my comfort zones, from my inertia. But once they have moved me, then they have no purpose. Then I have to follow something beautiful. So Buddha also said, attachment is the root cause of suffering. Clinging excessively to what desires, that without the fulfillment of desires, I'm incomplete. What will happen of me if I do not fulfill this desire? This excessive, obsessive clinging and addiction to desires is what is the root problem of our suffering. Otherwise, desires are good also. They make us move. So after this, I have another question for you, that have you ran after your desires? Have you really ran after them? Have you desired something really intensely? And what happened? If you could recollect the experience and see that, okay, I became desirous of a person. I ran after that person. First, you have to tell me why did you run? Because there must be some beauty that you witnessed. Otherwise, we would not run, right? So you ran after the person, and then what really happened? So those of us, not all, maybe those of us who have really tasted the brunt of desires, would you like to share your experience? What happened and what is the mechanism? Those of us who have the taste of this intensity of this, because many of us may not have it. Many of us may not have it. People who are run by the vital, mostly, I would say, those would have more experience of intensely burning in desires. More settled people, I don't think they experience much intensity with desires. They may have mild desires, but the intensity is not much great. So the greater the intensity in which you burn, the greater is the possibility to finding your true soul. That's the beauty. So please share if anything comes to you. Yeah. No one has burnt in desires. Is it only me? Yeah, James, you have something to add?
Yeah, maybe. The greater the intensity, and the greater the possible pain. Because desire leads to a sense of dissatisfaction, and if that continues to an extreme, it causes suffering and it causes pain, which, as we know, is a good impetus for growth and progress.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yes. I think you are hiding your personal experience, but you gave us a taste of it. Thank you for that. Yeah. Thank you. Yes, Beena. Yeah.
Yes. No. I mean, there was a desire for really fast spiritual progress. So catching hold of anybody and everybody and, trying to get some jnana. So that has really sometimes, I've experienced betrayal and a lot of setbacks, but that desire did not die. I mean, it just, I persevered.
Good for you. Good for you.
Yeah.
That's why you are here today with us. Huh?
I'm in good hands.
Yeah. Great. Yeah. Parvinder ji, you want to add?
Yes. Somehow we have felt that if the desire is very, 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 very deep, it does materialize and you become a changed person in the process.
Yeah. Depends on what you are desiring for, actually, right? Is it a material desire or maybe?
Yeah, no, not material, but maybe
more subtle desire you're talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
And what part of your being you're desiring from?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Anyone wants to add on? Any?
Yeah, what Binaji used the word Gyan. So I'm, I always feel if I won't purchase this book, then I would not have the scope of buying it later on. So my whole house is full of books.
Yeah.
And many times I have to offload them also with heavy hearts. And many a time I cannot do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So this desire for more and more truth, right? More beauty and more wisdom. And that's also a desire. And I think it's one with greed also. So there is something within us which is incomplete as if, and it's trying to again and again fulfill itself, by this craving, by this intensity, of yearning and seeking. And we see that it doesn't get fulfilled, as if it's an empty well, like an abyss. And the far we run, the greater we run, the more we drain our energies. We may have fleeting experiences of satisfaction, but they are very fleeting if we run in such an aggressive way. So is there any possibility or hope for us to transform it? That's what the question is today. So let us see the mechanism of desire first. What really happens? I'll use a very simple example. Imagine that I'm desiring a person. Many of us have desired a person, right? So two persons meet, and there is a oneness they feel. The moment oneness kind of flowers, that's beautiful, the oneness that we feel, the intimacy that we feel, it's beautiful. And the ego props up again, looks back in retrospect at the experience, and it says, wow, that was beautiful. I want it again. I want it again. That was beautiful. Now the oneness that happened was just a happening. You didn't make it happen. It just happened. You resonated, you had similar frequencies with somebody, you shared values deeper, something, and the oneness flowered. But oneness is beautiful. That's why we cherish friendships, because, even spiritual friendships or other friendships, we cherish them because there is a certain sense of oneness and belonging there. It unmasks our shared being in the process. And that is beautiful. That's full of joy. So the ego pops up again, this incomplete entity within, and it says, wow, that was beautiful. I want it again. And starts the process of running after something beautiful. Now, the very fact that beauty was there's no doubt that we experienced beauty somewhere. That's why we ran after it. But I think we missed something in the process. Now I go out, I meet that person who I experienced oneness with. Now the same person gets married to me. If it was the same person who was responsible for giving me happiness, now the person is in front of me, I'm married to that person, why don't I feel that joy again? Why is that joy not a lasting joy? Why is it so fleeting? Now, many a times it happens that the conversion happens, that the person who I assumed that was responsible for giving me joy now becomes a source of my pain. I think this is a very common happening that we have seen in our relationships. So why does this happen then? If desire being fulfilled was the reason of happiness, then why the object of desire right now in front of me, with me, is not able to give me joy? I think this has to be explored, because here for me lies the catch. Yes, James, you want to share something?
I think attachment.
Yeah. Yes. Beautiful. Yeah. So something happened which was beautiful, and the ego popped up, ego, incomplete entity within me, a separate sense of self created by my own mind. And it wants to fulfill the void. It wants to fulfill itself. It wants beauty and completion. So it runs after everything that promises its fulfillment, but it never happens. It never happens. And why it never happens? Because no object, no person, no situation, nothing of material existence can give the ego its fulfillment. So what can give ego its fulfillment? Because ego wants fulfillment. Desire wants to be fulfilled. When the desire rises up, what am I demanding? I am demanding a lasting happiness. And it's not wrong to want lasting happiness. It's beautiful to want lasting happiness. But the way we want it, the way we run after people, life situations and happenings, that's where we falter. As James said, attachment. So what really happened? I went out, I had an ice cream. The moment I was having an ice cream of which I was desirous, there was no desire in that moment. Please stay with me here. So I became desirous of an ice cream. I thought that will give me completion. I go out, I buy an ice cream. In the moment of having an ice cream, the joy that I feel, I think that it is because of the ice cream. That's what I think. I think it is because of the person I'm meeting, falling in love, right? But what is actually happening is, in the moment of fulfillment of desire, having the ice cream, there is no desire in that moment. Stay with me. So that imagine that your true being is the blue sky of consciousness, of awareness, on which from time to time dark clouds appear of desire. Right? The moment a dark cloud appears of desire, I run to fulfill it. The moment I am having the fulfillment thing in my mouth, there is no desire, the clouds are not there. So the joy that I experience is the joy of my innate being, the beingness that I am, the consciousness that I am, the awareness that I am. And I think the ego begins to think that it was because of the ice cream that I had the happiness. So I run after ice cream, or I run after a person. I become, as James said, attached to the ice cream or the person. I become addicted to the ice cream. Now we have seen that if I have more and more and more ice cream, there comes a time when the ice cream does not give me joy. So what is really happening? Can I pause and look at this mechanism of desire? Because if I do not stop, if I do not look at it, I will be running throughout not a lifetime, but lifetimes trying to fulfill myself. While the inner fulfillment lies in knowing myself as that blue sky of awareness, which is forever present 24/7, or knowing myself as the conscious presence in me and out of me. If I do not identify with that awareness, if I do not take this moment to pause and know myself as that pure awareness, it's not going to happen by its own. That's where effort is needed. Mother says a lot about vigilance and effort. So our true beingness, our true conscious individuality, we don't get without effort. Where is the effort needed? Effort is needed from detaching myself from the object of desire and knowing myself as the pure awareness that shines when there is no desire. That's what gives me joy. That's what is responsible for lasting happiness. And that is when we talk about falling in love, we experience so much of love between two people. So why is there so much of love that we experience from time to time between two people? Because in that moment of being together, not only physically, emotionally, mentally, you share spiritual values, you have emotional bonded values. In that moment of being together with a person who understands, the ego falls away, the ego withers away, the dark cloud of ego falls for a moment. And what we experience is the pure consciousness, pure awareness that we are. That is, the other name for that is love. That's what we feel. But the ego rises up again. The mind is in function. The limited mind is in function. So it rises up again. and it looks at the event and it says, oh, that was so beautiful, I want it again. And you run after that person, you marry that person, but it never gets repeated really. Because we are craving after it. We are becoming that incomplete ego, unknowingly. So let us give our egos or our desires the ultimate fulfillment, which is knowing ourselves as awareness. Mother says in her prayers and meditations again and again, several times, to identify with our true consciousness and not with the surface consciousness of thoughts, feelings, sense perceptions. So that is the ultimate fulfillment of, starting from the desire soul, desiring, not completing, and then moving towards the true soul, the true individuality, which cannot happen if I do not identify myself as the pure presence of awareness within. Is that example clear? The example of the unmasking of blue sky that I gave, that in moment of fulfilling myself with the object of desire, the dark cloud is absent. And when the dark cloud is absent, the pure blue sky of pure awareness, which I am already, it shines out. And one name for that is love. That's what I feel. Love, contentment, fulfillment, lasting happiness, completion. So I want to, Megha, you have something to share? Please go ahead.
I was saying, no, yes, it's very clear. It's
okay.
Very, very clear, actually.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. Yes. So I want to share something with you, a couple of slides, not much information. Although I have put a lot of information, but I'm not going to give it to us because I know that all of us are already connected to Mother Shri Aurobindo. We read a lot and we understand a lot. So I'm not going to go into the details, but I want to go into something which maybe not all of us may be aware of. So something from Kabir, and Kabir has been one of my favorite, masters, because he has so much of wisdom, which again parallels with the wisdom that Mother and Shri Aurobindo have shared with us. So here, something again related to desiring and not getting anywhere. So he says, I'll translate it in English for people who do not understand Hindi. He says, "Padi padi patthar bhayo, likhi likhi bhayo hai eet, kahe Kabir tohe prem ki, lagi na ek hi cheat." So he says, you have read so much, you have written so much, so many articles one may have written, so many scriptures one may have read. But what is the purpose of all this when you don't even you did not even get a drop of pure love? Kahe Kabir, antar prem ki, lagi na ek hi cheat. So we have to, it's a necessity. We have to identify ourselves as that pure presence of awareness, which is aware of the thought, aware of the feeling, aware of the desire, aware of the sadness, aware of the pain. So not to identify with the sadness, but to identify with the awareness, which sees the sadness, which sees the pain. Again and again, this is our practice. And without this, no amount of scriptures are going to help us without practice. Then he shares, "Daudat daudat daudiya, jeti man ki daud, daud thake man thir bhaya, to vastu thor ki thor." So he says you ran and ran and ran after everything you could run after. Jeti man ki daud. So wherever your mind said, you ran. Daud thake man sthir bhaya. So once you ran too much after desires and whatever you wanted in your life, and after having ran enough and not yet getting fulfilled, you realize that what you were looking for was right here with you all the time. So the presence of awareness, the presence of consciousness, which is our ultimate redemption, is 24/7 present with us. We don't need to run to any ashram, to any retreat, to any forest. No need to run there, although that may have its own purpose, that may give you solitude, and which is beautiful. But by running Nothing is to be gotten. And then, but we realize the futility of running only after we have ran enough. So that's what he shares in the first line, that after you have ran enough, then you realize the futility of running. And then he says that where you have to build your palace or the temple. He says, Man Mathura, Dil Dwarka, the third one, Kaya Kashi Jan, Das Dwarka Pinjara, Tame Jot Pechan. So he says, you have to make your mind a pilgrimage. You have to make your heart a place of pilgrimage. Have purity there in the mind, in the heart. And in the body, you have another pilgrimage. And in this temple of 10 doors, the 10 chakras or 10 openings, actually, not the chakras, the 10 openings, in this palace of 10 doors, you have to realize your conscious presence. Something more, he says, Tan bhitar man maniya. In the body, I have gotten rest. In this body, I have gotten rest. Bahar kaha na jai. So now I don't wander everywhere else. In the body, I have found rest and fulfillment. Now I do not run here and there. Chawla te firi jhal bhaya, bujhi balanti lai. So he says the burning that I was experiencing, now it got kind of cold and it soothed itself. It's pacified now in this body. So he has realized his conscious presence in this body. And that's why the burning is not there. The seeking is not there. Although there is another kind of seeking that comes after getting liberated from the knot of ego, which is the transformation of thoughts, feelings, and sense perceptions. That is the next step after we are liberated from the knot of ego. And then he talks about Sumiran. Sumiran is remembrance, remembrance of my true nature, remembrance of myself as awareness. Nid sukh atam ram hai, duja dukh apar, mansa vacha karmana, kabir sumiran sar. So he says the delight that I find in myself, in my being, that is truth. Rest everything, all the thoughts about others, other situations, other people, rest everything brings a lot of pain and misery. Mansa vacha karmana. So in mind, in thoughts, in speech, and in my acts, I have to work by remembering my true nature. How would I act if I am true awareness, pure awareness? How would I behave if I am awareness? How would I talk to a person if I am awareness? So that has to come to practice. Sumiran is remembrance of my true nature. And this is what I want to share here, because I feel this is a beautiful metaphor for parallelly remembrance of our true nature. So this lady, who is walking on the rope, we have many rope walkers, wire walkers, we may have seen. So she parallelly, as she dances on the rope with her all, the props that she may be using, parallelly she has to maintain a vigilant awareness on the rope. So while I'm engaging in day-to-day activities, I have to parallelly maintain as much as possible. Slowly we grow in baby steps, as much as possible to know myself as awareness, to know myself as the conscious presence within, and not as the desire, not as the sadness, not as the sorrow. So when the sadness or sorrow may be there, what am I busy doing? I am allowing the sadness to be there, not following the dictate of it, and parallelly remembering my true nature, which is knowing myself as awareness. So this parallel consciousness is very important. Mother also has shared something on it, right? And what happens if she forgets that she is walking on a tightrope? She slips. So the moment the vigilance falters, even for a moment, I slip into the desire soul. I slip into the egoistic consciousness, and I fall, and I have misery in my life. I have suffering in my life. So suffering, misery, all the kind of self-inflicted misery, especially, it is an indication that I have slipped into the egoistic consciousness again. So what is to be done? Nothing really. To remind myself, Sumiran, to remember myself as the true awareness, as the pure conscious presence within, through whose presence I am aware of everything in this life. So I am that awareness. I am that awareness. How would I act in this situation if I am that awareness? So this parallel consciousness is our key, in one word. If we can do this parallelly and see how she is doing it. Now, one may be doing it very, very effortlessly, but the practice one has to do before it becomes effortless. That is a lot of practice. One has to fall a lot of times, right? So this is where effort needs to be put, parallelly being aware of ourselves as awareness, and not as thought, not as feeling, not as sense perceptions. Thought, feeling, sensations will be there, but I'm not clinging to them. I'm not attaching myself to them. There is no fulfillment I am going to get there. Yeah. So this is what I think little I wanted to share. I'll stop here, and I would invite reflections, although I think I may have a couple of more, maybe. Okay. This is not. Yeah, this is the two couplets more, and then I'll stop. So he says, Kabir says, सुमिरन की सुध यो करो जैसे कामी काम, एक पलक बिसरे नहीं निज दिन आठों जाम. So how you have to remember how to change that desiring self to an intensely aspiring self. So you have to desire just like an addict desires for the object of addiction. If I am an addict to alcohol, and the moment alcohol is over, I'm desiring, where can I get it? Where can I get it? So I may be doing anything else, but every time what is on my mind, how can I get more alcohol? So this is how he says you have to be parallelly aware of yourself as consciousness. So the intensity that was present in the desiring self, the same intensity now gets changed into remembering myself as awareness as much as possible. And we grow in degrees. So be kind to yourself. Don't worry much. We will slip many times, but every time we slip, we learn something about ourselves. And then he says in the next one, Sumiran ki sudhyo karo, jyo gaghar panihar, hale dole surat mein kahe kabir vichar. So he says, just like a lady who is carrying pot of water on her head in villages, you have to carry water long distances. Just like that, she's talking to her friend. She's making a lot of conversations, but her parallel consciousness is on the pot full of water. The moment she slips in vigilance, the pot can break, fall down, and the water is gone. And the moment I slip, knowing myself as awareness, I enter into the egoistic self, the desiring soul, and I suffer. So the suffering becomes a signal, no problem. I take the signal from suffering and remember myself, recollect myself as awareness, as presence of consciousness. I am that. I am that. So reminding myself again and again. Yeah. So I'll stop here, and I think enough I have shared. I would invite reflections or questions or anything. All our desires are fulfilled. Nothing to ask.
If no one is speaking, let me stop me when I'm speaking a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, don't mind.
Okay.
So I shared a book with James also, a very beautiful book. A psychiatrist took almost 15 years to write it. And this resonates very well with what you said today. What happens the moment we have some experience, these are now technical terms, we represent it in our mind. The present, which is there, which is natural, beautiful, everything, we represent it, and then we are seeking always the representation. Like once we saw a rose, then every time, whenever it comes from far, we will say rose rather than looking at, smelling it, having the experience of the beauty, we will just say it is a rose. Then it becomes a label to us. So scientific understanding of the brain also says we falter on this line. This is going from the right-sided observation to left-sided piecemeal brain. And throughout our life, we suffer for that. And the second part, which took me a lot to understand, there is a difference between need and desire. Like infants have needs, even adults do have. Like to have a warm meal is a need, not a desire. To have a nutritious meal is a need, which Ayurveda also says. But when I feel like I will go at some restaurant, pay 2,000, 3,000, put that on the my Facebook and WhatsApp, my DP, then it becomes desire. That is my take. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing, Rajesh ji. So something becomes a part of my sense of self, part of my identity as a human being. And then I run after it and try to, again, as I think the word is attachment. So attaching anything, using anything from the world of manifestation and attaching it to my sense of self. Whenever I do that, we become miserable sooner or later. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. Anyone wants to share any question, any reflection or any, I don't know, observation?
Yeah, may I? Yes. No, sometimes I don't know. I mean, sometimes the drive is from deep within, and it is so strong that it's just, I mean, I don't know. I've experienced it a few times. There was a very strong drive to expand. I mean, I work with small children, and there was such a, I don't know whether to call it, what was it, aspiration, or was it a desire? I often question myself, and it has been fulfilled, and it has given me a lot of joy and peace, and I mean, beautiful experience. But that there was this immense restlessness within.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but the outcome is so beautiful that I don't know whether I can call it. I mean, I feel that it could not have been a desire. Maybe it was a drive from within, or I don't know. There were a lot of challenges, but I've only grown from that.
Beautiful.
So I don't know, but I often wonder whether it was, I mean, why this? Of course, recently in this last 1.5 years, we've learned a lot that pain also comes to help us grow. So maybe.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything that helps us grow. Yeah, anything that helps us grow. Yes, James, please.
Actually, I wanted to ask Bina, what would happen if that aspiration or desire hadn't been fulfilled? Because you said it was fulfilled. But what would have been your state of mind if actually it hadn't been fulfilled?
I don't know, because it got fulfilled, and I'm currently again in the similar situation where there is again the desire or aspiration, whatever it is, but I'm very much at peace. I'm very much at peace of my, I mean, I have a lot of peace of mind. I mean,
that's wonderful.
I have right now, I mean, that time, this was about 12, 13 years back, between 2005 and 2009, 10. But that time there was a lot of, I mean, I was not willing to give up. But right now, I'm comfortable that whatever is the outcome, I have surrendered it.
Yes.
Whatever is the outcome.
But I think if the sense of equality is there, it's aspiration, surely.
Yeah.
I shouldn't confuse it with desire at all, Bina.
Yes. But that time the drive was so strong, and there was a lot of restlessness. But currently there's no restlessness.
I
think it's also good not to label anything as good or bad. So restlessness also has its purpose. So not to kind of, again and again we hear from masters that when we are knowingly there taking stance as consciousness, as awareness, then we don't judge, because judging is the part of the limited conceptual mind. So we are still in the domain of the ego if we are judging. So as you shared, that restlessness also served its purpose. And as James added on, that if the disappointment is not there, if equality is there, then definitely it must be aspiration. Because whenever our desires are not fulfilled, Mother shares that you will see that you will be disappointed. So that disappointment, if it's present when the desire is not fulfilled, then it is a desire and not an aspiration. I think that's
and
what.
evidently there's been a shift in consciousness during the whole process, which is your consciousness has got more equal and more equanimous, and you've got more peaceful about the whole process.
Yeah.
So I think it's.
But the hope is still there. I mean, even though I say that, okay, if it has to happen, it will happen. If it doesn't happen, it's all right. But there is still a lot of hope. There's so I mean, I keep going. It's not that.
I think it's okay. No, it's I mean, if I am awareness, if I'm settled as awareness, whether hope is there, not there, I would not bother much, because even hope has its purpose. So
and really, everything's a mixture.
Yeah.
Everything's a mixture. So nothing's pure one way or the other.
Absolutely.
Everything's a mixture.
True. Yeah. As Mother shares, everything has a right place in this world. Nothing is wrong with this world, but everything has to be just put at its proper place, and then things are all right. But that itself is so difficult. Yeah. Thank you, James. Thank you, Bina. Anyone wants to add on anything? We have still 10 minutes to go, so you can share your reflection or any personal experience that you want to share.
I have a need.
Yeah.
Every time you bring Kabir, and I would like to know the person which you like the most, who have have authored or the compiled Kabir's work in Hindi particularly, so I can suggest people to read them. Who according to you are the best writers or the editors or synthesizer of Kabir's work in Hindi?
So I think in short, I'll just be very brief. So Ajab Shahar Kabir Project, if you have heard of that name, you can find them on YouTube also, and Google, you'll find them. They have done a lot of work in simplifying Kabir for regular general public. My mentor, one of my mentors, Acharya Prashant, he has a lot of reflections in Hindi on Kabir. So there you can find something. And I think Google.
Google is very confusing. There are so many. That's why I asked you.
Okay, so these two I think would be enough to start with, because these have been my mentors also. So I believe that should be enough. And right now, nothing much is coming to my mind, but if it comes, I'll share on the group. Yeah. Great. Thank you for asking. Anyone else? I thought you were asking me to sing when you said I have a need. So thank God.
You may sing if you have the time. I've heard it before. Very nice. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Maybe some other day. I think I would like many, if reflections are there, because we are so many people, 16 total, and if anyone wants to add something. So one thing, in the meantime, if no one is sharing, I would not like to, I would actually like to use up this time. There is one particular technique which I had shared in the Understanding Vital Nature also. And this technique is called Tonglen. It's a Buddhist technique tool, and it has been helping me a lot. So whenever I find myself in the middle of desires, whenever I find myself suffering in the grip of ego, and you become conscious of the suffering, that you realize that, okay, I am suffering right now. I am in anger right now. I am in jealousy right now. So I am desiring right now, and it's giving me pain. The moment you recognize it, one can use it beautifully. And how one can use it? To connect with all the people who are suffering, burning with their desires. all the people who at the moment are in the grip of ego consciousness. I inhale their suffering and I exhale wellness, happiness, lasting happiness and contentment out for them. And this is a very, very short, it may take only less than 2 minutes, if you do it nicely, and you won't believe the power it has. Really powerful technique. Yeah. So in whatever state you find yourself, especially in misery, to connect with all the people who are feeling this misery of being rejected, insulted, or being with unfulfilled desires, you inhale that misery because now you have that experience of that misery, and you exhale wellness and lasting happiness for all those people along with yourself. Yeah. So inhaling everyone's suffering, and there would be a resistance in the being, as if somebody in us, something in us doesn't want to take in that suffering. And it's okay to allow that resistance to be still. Go ahead and do that. Those of us who have the inclination towards this, go ahead, let this resistance be. It's okay to resist, but do this process. Only 2 minutes. It doesn't require anything. And the moment you do this, you shift within yourself. The shift from the desire soul to the true self has happened. So it's a way of turning yourself away from the egoistic consciousness and also wishing well for all the beings, all the sentient beings, including my so-called non-well-wishers. May they be lastingly happy and may they always be connected to their true self. And the moment I wish that, I see that I myself become connected to my true self. So it's a win-win situation. So this is something which I wanted to share, the tool that I have personally been using also. And the last thing to mention, I'm just looking at the time and using it up. Last thing to mention is to practice being awareness. And we are having morning meditation sessions now every Monday. It's an open session, anyone can join, where we set the intention right in the beginning of the day itself. I'll share the poster with all of you. And join us if you're interested, or maybe watch the recordings if you don't have time then. Because in the morning itself, you are knowingly taking stance as awareness. So there are lesser and lesser chances of you going into the grip of egoistic consciousness. So you become a drop of poison less for yourself and for the whole of existence. Let us do this. Let us do this because we have been poisonous for a long time, all of us. So it's time. I'm sure, all of us who are joining this sessions by NAMAH, we have done enough. We have done our share of poison enough. So it's time for us to move and become of a little use to ourselves and to the society. Not Aurobindo Society only, but the whole of the society. Yeah. So I think I'll just stop blabbering here and maybe take last comments and then hand over to James. Yeah. I have been really short, I could have prepared more, James. I think I've been really short. Yeah. Yeah.
Does anyone have any comments they want to make? Very powerful session, Monica. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
And tomorrow we have Dr. Yogesh Mohan. I can't recall what his topic is. I think it's the journey from desire to aspiration. So, yes,
May I ask one question? Sorry.
Parvinder, yes, please.
Okay. So if I ask a very foolish question, I would say desire I've understood. So in terms of aspiration, I mean, in one sentence, how is it that I can distinguish that this is a desire and this is aspiration?
I think James had just pointed what Binaji was sharing. James had pointed upon that if I am aspiring and I am not disappointed if something on the way of aspiration does not happen. So there is parallelly a sense of inner completion within, right? Which is not there with the presence of desire. In desire, I become the incompletion. In desire, I become the lack, a sense of lack. While in aspiration, there is a forward movement, but there is not a sense of this inner incompletion which eats us up. That if this aspiration is not fulfilled, what will happen to me? I'll always remain incomplete. So this parallel sense of knowing yourself as complete and yet knowing that there is so much work to be done on the outer personality and in the outer circumstances, that is something hinting towards aspiration. And there is no disappointment as such. There is reflection, contemplation, but there is no disappointment because I am complete. So even if aspiration was not fulfilled this way, it will get fulfilled some other way. So there is a lot of faith and trust in the universe and the divine. That the solidity and unshakable faith is there in aspiration. So that's one of the hints or clues towards understanding whether it is a desire or an aspiration. If anyone wants to add on, please do.
Yeah, I mean, aspiration is a psychic movement. True aspiration is a psychic movement, and it's mental aspiration. But true aspiration is a psychic movement. And doesn't hanker after any particular results. It's just stays in the same state, whatever the results come about. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But it yearns, it longs for the goal.
Yeah.
But if it's not attained, then there's always tomorrow.
Beautiful. This is what we talk about, 2 steps. Mother and Sri Aurobindo talk about that nirvana or the liberation from the knot of ego, and knowing yourself as the presence of consciousness is the first step of integral yoga. It's not the last step, right? So first, through my practices, I knowingly become the presence of awareness. I take the stance and solidify my stance there. And then as James was sharing, that the aspiration is now to reflect this beauty in the outer movements of thought, feelings, sense perceptions, in my actions. So there is a lot of work to be done, because the more we realize, become conscious, we see that, oh my God, I could have done that better. I did not need to say those words to that person. So we realize that although we take more and more stance as awareness or our true presence, conscious presence, but in the outer personality, the reflection comes in a long kind of an arduous journey. And parallelly, there is a solidity taking stance as awareness. So there is also this, as James was sharing, that there is eternity. When I am taking stance as awareness, if not in this lifetime, the goal will be fulfilled in the next lifetime. So there is no rush, because you have parallelly known yourself as complete, as awareness. But there is a work to be done. Yeah. So thank you, James, for adding on to that. Yeah. And thank you, Parvinder ji, for asking that beautiful question. Yes.
Does anyone else have any more comments? Or?
Okay, so thank you, James.
Okay.
And
so thank you, Monica.
Thank you,
Yes.
everyone. Thank you
Session.
so much, and more power to each one of us, and may all grow towards lots of aspiration, and maybe lesser and lesser degrees of desires, burning in desires once we have burnt enough, and more towards progress and joy. Yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone,
Thank you
until
very
5 o'clock tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you.